Hi, my name's Vanessa, and I wanted to do this. Actually, to be 100% honest, it kind of just came in the last little while of trying to connect to people. Um, I just have this aversion to social media. I think it's just never been something that, first of all, I understand really, and I don't know, just always seemed so empty. I think I moved to Ecuador when I was, oh God, it would have been 2008. So smartphones didn't exist. I mean, there was Facebook, but it didn't rule our lives like social media does now. And so it really wasn't of that much importance. And especially as a business, I mean, back then it was about being on Lonely Planet. If you could get into the guidebooks, you were set. I remember when we got into our first guidebook, it was just like, yeah, this is it. We've made it. And now, I mean, it's just so saturated. There's so much. Anybody can write anything, and if they understand the algorithm, you know, they get heard more than someone who's speaking the truth and is being authentic, but maybe doesn't have the time, the money to put into to social media. And so, recently I just kind of got into YouTube. And it's so funny because we live in this tiny town in Ayampe where, yeah, I think the population is probably like maybe 500, maybe in the high season. And especially since COVID, I feel like we've just been in this, in Spanish, it's a burbuja or a bubble of, yeah, of isolation. And I feel like going onto YouTube, it was just this eye opener of like, oh my God, like what have I missed? Like what is going on? Um, and there can be so much negativity. I think when I first got on, my algorithm was probably anybody who would go on to would probably just be mortified by my algorithm. But as and I try to limit myself, not spending too much time, but you know, realizing it is this huge tool to connect and to learn, and the things that I've been able to learn, and my husband's been learning too. It's been amazing, but then I guess it also always comes down to that self discipline. But I think we've realized, and um, going back to what people are saying, that there's other ways to promote business and connect to people besides social media. And I think after hearing that, it was finally this kind of calling of like, you know, we have something to offer. We have an amazing service. We have incredible employees. We have this beautiful location, and really, this algorithm, this equation is stopping us from being heard. We post regularly. We post since the beginning, and our numbers never increase. And I really think it has to do with the algorithm. And like, we're a small business. I live in a third world country. Like, we don't have the financial means to pay a professional to run our social media, and I really don't want to, because how real is that? That's just, it's fake. So just realizing more and more that people are interested in authenticity and connecting, and it was like, okay, well, maybe this is a way to connect with people. So, I'm gonna give it a try. We started posting, not very consistently, yoga videos as a way to connect to past students, and I'd like to continue that, but then also show what is a Yampe, where is this community we live in, and just the beauty of it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Share with what I can, and yeah. So it's, you know, if you've been on our website, you might have read this story. I don't know. For me, I always love to go on websites, and the first thing I go to is the about. I love to hear the story. How people got there. What inspired their business. For us, it was realizing. We were quite young. I was 25 when we moved here, and oh, sorry, I was 27. And it was just this realization, like, I don't want to wait till I'm 50, 60 to start living. I really don't know when the end date is, and so in Canada, where we're from, there was no option. Like we couldn't. That's not. I shouldn't say there. There was probably a way to do it, but where we were sitting in Alberta, it just didn't feel like there was any options to really start to live our lives the way we wanted. And so when the house prices started to go up quite quickly in so 08, 07, we luckily we had purchased a house the year before and took that opportunity. It's like, okay, here's our exit plan. And in 05, we traveled Latin America for a year. So we'd already had that seed planted in us of like, okay, well, there's other ways to live. Because I think, I can't speak for anywhere else, but especially in Canada, it's kind of portrayed that that's how the whole world lives. And when we came to Latin America, it was like, wow, like, no, there's a lot of different ways to live. And we're just being fed this story that doesn't fit, like it doesn't make sense. And, so we took that opportunity to exit and came down with just backpacks and really, I always say it's like, I feel like there's my dog Phoebe, best guard dog ever. The difference between playing poker with cash and without. And I feel like because we had gotten, a substantial amount of money quite quickly, and at that time jobs were like by the dozen and life was fairly easy in Canada. It was like, oh, if this doesn't work out, we'll just go home, like we'll take this as a really extended holiday. And so we really didn't rush into anything. We basically gave ourselves a year where it was like, let's just observe, let's just hang out, let's figure out where we want to live, let's realize that like we're not in Canada, and that if we're gonna live here, we have to understand, or at least try to begin to understand what it's like to live here, and what it's like to run a business, what it's like to be in a community. And it was just, I feel like that year was so beneficial for us of observing. And there's so much wisdom in silence and just listening. And so after that year, it really gave us a clear vision, I think, of what we wanted to create. And it was really, so much of it was cooperation and building a business where it was almost at the center, but it was like a spider web, and it connected to all the other businesses, it connected to the community, and it kept expanding. And it's a really hard concept, I think, for a lot of people to grasp, that this idea that the more successful my business, if we work together, the more successful I am, the more successful you are, and vice versa. And if we can focus on our part, but then support each other, it's one thing, it's easier because you're doing less. It's more fun, and it just feels like that's what life is. You look at nature around, it's not one plant living by itself doing all this work. It's about this interdependence and this community and this ecosystem. And I think that was always the foundation for what we wanted in our business. And realizing it was a lot harder than we thought, because the people around us didn't believe us that was our plan. But after enough years, I think, and that consistency and that honesty, the authenticity is like, no, it's not an act. Like this I don't want to do everything. I want to do my part and be able to rely that you're doing your part, and I want to have time for my family. I want to have time to surf. I want to have time to explore other sides of myself that aren't motivated by money. And the only way I can do this is if it's done in a community. And so finally, and I think just the way the world's going, there's this more understanding and this more openness to it. And it's time. I think often it's just when you have a vision, maybe a lot of times it's just waiting for others to kind of succeed as well. So it's exciting that, there's just more openness to that. So we're excited to that, but I think now it's breaking free of systems and institutions and like Instagram and like this social media that's based on this algorithm that's not authentic, and it's numbers. And I think reality is we're more than numbers. We're people, and so many small businesses are people trying to live their vision, live their passion, and share it. And it's exciting. It's exciting that there's starting to be other ways now to do that. Social media, why I'm opting to do this slide feed, as you can tell. It's nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, and to be honest, try and see how that goes. I don't know if you can see it as I'm speaking, the light's changing, so it's about 5:30 here. So the sun's getting ready to go down, and Ecuador is such a beautiful place that we have 12 hours of sun, 12 hours a day, which, coming from Canada, I'm pretty far up north. It's such extremes. This summer, there's endless amounts of light at night, and then in the winter, it's the opposite. And so it was a really interesting. I think I just didn't really appreciate it as much in Canada because that's just what you grow up with. But here, it's so beautiful that you can really work with the sun. And for us, it's like as soon as, probably because the power's not as big here as it is in North America, but when the sun goes down, it's like you start to slow down, and your work's done, and you kind of try to be in bed by 8:30 and up with the sunrise, and it just feels so much more natural than it does, being able to stay up 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock with artificial lights and be dragging your feet. So it's the light kicked in on the computer. But so it's the beautiful things about Ecuador that especially for well-being, it's such a gift for us to really coordinate. I kind of feel like I'm going on a ramp and just jumping. It's hoping over time this will get a little bit more clear sharing. But I guess the main point was just coming on and giving a little bit of a face behind what Ultra is. As you can see, my classes are on, but that's a lot different than just having a conversation and speaking. So I wanted to just make that initial connection and see if it evolves to anything, see if I can commit to it. I think, for me, the priority is my kids. I homeschool. So I used to have a children's school here, a holistic school, for 5 years, where it was based a lot on the yogic principles, a lot of working with the yamas and the niyamas, the regulation of the nervous system. To me, I think that's just crucial in not only education, but just in well-being in general. So really kind of starting to introduce tools for kids about regulation and also conflict resolution. As much as I, actually get into that in another video, giving my spiel in education, but for me, it's like those are the skills that I think are necessary nowadays, especially with AI. I mean, everything you can already, it's all online, so it's not like when I was in school in the 90s, the 80s, where it was about the knowledge and it was about memorizing. Now we have these tools with us all the time, and so it's now, how do we use these tools? How do we connect, and how do we work as a team? How do we express ourselves? Conflicts with getting results, not about bullying. And I really wanted to give those kids those tools. And so after 5 years, the school just wasn't working for us anymore. It was never meant to be financial gain. It was always about providing a space for my kids. And when that space just didn't feel like it wasn't working, it was like, okay, now it's time to move on, and really practicing non-attachment. That, even though I created this image or this story of myself of what I've created, it's, can I, when it's not working, can I let that go? It was really hard. It felt really lost for a while, and I felt this idea, the guilt, and I felt like, I failed, and but sitting with it and allowing myself to feel all those emotions, and after a while it felt quite freeing, that it was like, I can make a mistake and I can try it, and I didn't have the answer. I didn't. Oh God, those are my neighbor's dogs. It's so funny. They play this game where they think they're gonna get in this massive fight, and then they pass each other in the street, and they just kind of give each other the nose. So there's my neighbor's. So yeah. This is another thing. The fact that we can just let the dogs bark. In Canada, it was like, you can't let your dog bark. And it's like, it is what it is. So, but yeah, letting that go, and so that being said, my main focus now is the kids, and we do unschooling, and but we also work with people, what the kids' interests are. It's like I try to find people that have that passion, so then they can share it, because it's like I obviously can't do everything, and I don't want to. I want them to have different viewpoints and different stories, different perspectives, and it's been really cool because it takes the pressure off me that I have to provide and I have to know all this. It's like, these are my strengths, and this is what I can share with you from an authentic place. But it's like, these other things like music, I'm actually just opening space in my life for music, but I don't have that skills, and so it's like finding people that do, and art. Both my kids are quite artistic, and it's like, okay, well, I can't give you what you need, and it's beautiful, because I think it's been about building this beautiful community, and for the kids of having this ability to adapt to different ways of doing things, but then also being really comfortable with their boundaries and their who they are as people. It's incredible. It's I look at them, and it was like, oh my God, if I had half of this as 10, 11, 12, 14, how differently my life would be. And I'm 41, and I'm just starting to be able to be authentic and sit in my true self. And for them, it's like, if that's not taken away from them and they can reside in that, what are the possibilities are endless. And so it's so incredible just watching and being like, wow, this is so cool. And so that being said, that is my priority, and it's and I actually am just starting a seniors yoga group tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting with the community. We'll be doing it twice a week, and so it's like, as much as I think it's really important to connect internationally, and obviously for the business to grow and to share, it's really more about these in-person connections. And so if I can find a way to balance these two, then I'm all for it. But if it means sacrificing this connection with the kid, my husband, or just, it's not going to work. And I think that's the hard part about social media. Like I don't have it on my phone, because it's just such a waste of time. And I think it's that discipline. So we'll see. Maybe this doesn't evolve to anything, but maybe it does. It's I feel like try and see what happens. But so I am going to end now. It's 5:30, and kids have friends over, and dogs are getting hungry, starting to come to my lap. And again, I don't want it to run into the family life too much, so I'm going to get dinner ready, and So yeah, but I'm interested to kind of show what it's like to live in Ayampe and why. I think more so than anything, it's trying to give people permission to live outside the box. Obviously this place is not for everyone. Ask my mom; she hates it, and it's not about selling this place. I think it's more about giving, allowing people to see that there's other ways to do things, and it's okay. And you can make mistakes. It can be messy. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't want it to be perfect. So yeah, that's the plan, and we'll see what happens. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.